This podcast is brought to you by Penji. Penji is a creative subscription service that gives you access to pre-vetted, agency-trained creatives from all over the world. From graphic design to illustrations to social media management and web development, it's all included for one monthly price. It's time to say goodbye to the hassle of searching for top-notch creative talent. With Penji, you get quality and consistency delivered right to your inbox every day. Carefully crafted for you by humans, so meet your new creative team today. Head over to penji.co for more and enter the coupon code located within the podcast show notes.
Okay, so a bizarre news for the week is that a man in China found himself trapped in a massage chair, and he had to tweet to get assistance, so that somebody could come in and help him outside of this massage chair that he got trapped in.
I mean, is there any better place to get trapped than a massage?
What I don't understand is how did he not I don't have any context for this, so I don't understand how he got trapped, why he had to tweet for assistance if he had a cell phone. Why didn't you call your friend or something?
Ridiculous. I have seen massage chairs where it squeezes your calves too. So maybe
Oh,
it
yeah.
just stopped and locked his blanket.
I don't know. That's insane.
That's fun.
But that is how we're starting the podcast today, guys. You guys know everything. Welcome to Fully Managed. This is where we discuss marketing and business tips to assist you with your business journeys. I'm your host, you know me, Daniela, and I'm Penji's partnership coordinator. With me today is a very special guest, Jessica Goodrum. Hi, Jessica. How are you doing?
I'm happy to be here.
I'm so excited to have you on the podcast today. We're gonna meet. We talked about the podcast before we got on a call. So, we finally got to filming and I'm really excited to have our episode.
Yeah, I am too. I'm excited. I hope we get into some good stuff.
Yeah, we do. Me too. So to get us kind of going, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, about what you do, favorite color, animal, whatever it is that we need to know about you to get the
Yes.
ball rolling?
Okay, we're getting personal. I love it. So, my name's Jessica Goodrum, and I work at Rival Mind, which is a digital marketing agency, which is just a part of it, right? We all work somewhere. I'm kind of a naturey person. I really enjoy climbing, so rock climbing. I'm kind of new to it, so I consider myself a noob. I love climbing. I love, dancing. I live in the Chicagoland area. It's just a really cool place to live. Very flat land, so maybe some mountains would be interesting. But yeah, I enjoy connecting with people and just finding authentic people and figuring out how to just come through authentically. And even from a business perspective, how do you show up, authentically in the business atmosphere?
That's awesome. I totally relate to the feeling of needing mountains. That's not business related, but when my family we moved to the States in, um, I don't remember the year. I was a child, but I'm from El Salvador, so my life
Oh,
in El
cool.
Salvador was with mountains,
Yes.
you
Oh,
know. And when we moved to Plano, Texas. Mhm. For people who are not familiar, Plano means flat in Spanish.
very different.
Yeah, so it was it was called Plano because it was so flat, legit. It was a desert, and I remember the same feeling of it's just land and nothing more, and I always felt that desire for mountains. When we ended up leaving America and moving back to El Salvador, I never appreciated a mountain and a volcano more in my life.
I'm telling you, some about those mountains for sure.
Yeah, it can get a little suffocating to be in the
Uh,
desert, I think.
yeah, yeah.
But it's so great to have you here. And I think, Jessica, we have such a great conversation today planned because one of our main topics today is actually talking about authenticity and how it
Mm,
comes across in business, which I think in marketing, it's such a coveted thing, right? To have
yeah.
authenticity. And it's also not often done very well. And sometimes you see it succeeding so much. What is your take on that? What do you think people struggle so much to have authenticity?
Oh gosh, I mean, what a it's kind of, I think, a profound question. So, really to show up authentically in any way, you have to be someone who is self-aware. So we just talk at the personal level, right? Because everything kind of starts with you or starts at home, if you want to say. You just really have to understand who you are and know the lines of how you show up, right? I mean, there are certain conversations or situations that you might express or explore with deep, close friends that you aren't going to express in business. You have to like figure out how to be a really genuine version of yourself with a genuine message that you hope or you try uh, to resonate with others, while also knowing the line between knowing how to present yourself too, which is a far cry from maybe, let's say, years past where, each generation has their own flavor, where things were very perception management. And it was, the business world was, primarily occupied with male counterparts, with men. And I think that with more women stepping into the scene, a leadership role, there's opportunity to just really show collaboration and authenticity and who you are and who your brand is, as you, yeah, from a marketing perspective or just business in general. So I mean, have a pretty good take. You start at home and then start with you and go from there.
I think authenticity is also just a lot like you said about perception, because I think a lot of times you in your head, you're being authentic and people are not perceiving that as authentic, and, it's a complicated discussion because then it's like, well, this is truly what I feel or think, or this is my, my work and whatever, and people are like, "That's a lie," and, it's because it doesn't feel authentic, but that doesn't mean that it's not authentic, and I think that's kind of like a gray area where it's like, well, I think with especially the coming of social media,
Mhm.
where I think social media blurs the line between authenticity and kind of curated perception and maybe like little bits of authenticity,
Yeah.
which we saw on users, but now we're seeing very much with brands being kind
Mhm.
of integrating that into their whole space.
Yeah.
Um, what I wanna know from you is how do you think people can actually sort of keep that line of genuinity and also, I think there needs to be a little bit of thinking through when you're posting, not just entirely authenticity. How do you do that or advise a brand owner, a business owner to do that?
That's a great question. So I love that because that's something that the current agency that I'm at that we've been working on. So is how do we show up more authentically in a space, social media, on our website, which is great, right? That's forward facing. But then once clients get in contact with us, how do we show up authentically to them? And so it just has to be, for one, it has to be built into your culture. And so if you find that you aren't a very authentic business or your atmosphere or culture of your business isn't very authentic all the way through, the good news is you can work on it, right? You can start to work on it today. And so I would say the best way to do it is to know how to represent professionally but also using, your people. So one of the things that we've been working on is really showing who we are to where is in the past, it's not that we were hiding it. It's that we wanted to have the most, I guess, most direct representation set forward. And typically, a lot of times, uh, if you look older or if you act older or there's a certain facade that you have, there's a perception that you'll be received as a professional, right? And that's not always the case. You can have very talented people at a very young age who can also represent for your brand. And so I guess my advisement would be is who or what in your organization is a best representation of you that you could kind of put forward. And how do you put forward that on, social media? There's different platforms, right? So you can be more playful on Instagram and TikTok than you would on LinkedIn, and then bring that all the way internally in-house so that when clients meet you, who they see on your website, who they see on your social media is who you are behind the scenes. And a lot of that has to do even in sales calls, right? Sales always has such a bad name to it. Sales people have been perceived as shady in the past. And so I think just one of the things you could speak from is one, knowing who your market is and knowing who you serve best. And when you come across potential clients that might not be the right fit, that you can be transparent with them and say, hey, we'd love to help, but we don't have the capabilities for what you're asking for, or we're above your range, whatever it is. So I think it just is a thing you have to find how to weave it all the way through while still knowing how to engage professionally and to just build into your people set so that their professionalism and their expertise also have the ability to grow as well with you.
Yeah, I mean, it's so difficult. I think authenticity is just so it's such a difficult topic. At the same time, it's so simple because it really is just putting, your honest, true identity as a brand, as a
Mhm.
person out there, and then connecting with those people. But I think, with just everything that has been changing online with the coming years, it's a lot harder. And like you said, you have to sometimes pass the baton. I think a huge part of kind of showing authentically more on all of these forward facing platforms that we have nowadays has a lot to do with charisma. I don't
That's a good
necessarily
point.
think that it's the most authentic person as much as it's the most charismatic person. I think obviously authenticity is great, but I think a lot of times what you see sort of being really successful is just because you're having a very outgoing, extroverted, funny, really cool person at the forefront of that, and they
Yeah.
might not be that is probably just an aspect of who they are as a person. Or, you sometimes forget this is the job that this person is hired to do, but this is not necessarily what they stand for, who they believe in, or, a lot of what they really feel. I think it's my opinion is just, and correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like it's hard to actually find genuinely authentic people who are kind of 100% supporting something when they're putting their face forward online.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, just at the individual level, it's hard because we want people to perceive us a certain way, right? And then marketing is all about building a visual or building a message around like, hey, I want you to receive this business or what we do or who I am in this way. It is something very difficult. It's something difficult for individuals to grasp or even choose to pursue because you know what? It can be very scary to be genuine and authentic. I would say, again, kind of like in the beginning, how I was saying encourage a business is any individual to encourage them and explore what that looks like. My question to you would be, do you feel, obviously with the rise of social media, but do you feel that the younger generations crave more authenticity in the things that they interact with now in comparison to like older generations?
I think there's a dichotomy.
Hmm.
I think that there's a kind of clash of ideals in a way with the younger generations because I feel like, yes, there's a larger crave with authenticity, especially with AI rising.
Mm.
Because now you don't even know. Now it's not just about authenticity. The question is even if was this made by a person or is this a machine, right?
Yeah.
But I think yes, that crave is there, but at the same time, I think it's not because okay, so, like, a very specific example that I have is for when, with Gen Z on social media, specifically on Instagram, a very popular trend that started rising was photo dumps on your Instagram pictures, which was kind
Yes.
of just, like, random pictures of your week,
Like
right?
a Sunday photo dump. Yep,
Yeah.
I got you. Yeah.
Yeah, the Sunday dump, or sometimes they would do, like, the week or the month, like, March 2025 dump, and then you
Yeah.
just post everything that happened on March. And they were supposed to be kind of, like, not edited, they were supposed to be against the highly edited, kind of very saturated millennial photos that we were seeing from Instagrams from millennials. But then I started seeing a lot of influencers and content creators making videos of, "This is how to make the perfect aesthetic photo dump." And the
Mhm.
pictures were also a lot of these pictures were you could tell that people were taking them with an aesthetic in mind. yes, they felt a little bit more natural, but they were not authentic because they were obviously posting the best meals, these really specific angles to make everything seem mysterious and cool and like your life is different. And so I feel like, I mean, this authentic photo dump thing is not really authentic when people are actually following a different aesthetic, but it's just what's trendy right now, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
That's a very interesting point.
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking about that. But what would be it would be neat if I follow photographers and artists and you understand that you're looking at art. A lot of the artists show up quite genuine anyways, but it would be neat to like almost have a delineation of accounts that are like, I'm producing art. So even in that case, if it was a photo dump, you understand from that creator that they're trying to give you a perception. They're creating a story for you, right? And then it's just super clear, especially for young viewers. I mean, um, a lot of people with, filters are kind of dead, but still there. Like you said, the aesthetic. And then there's the question of, well, what's real in person, and then maybe we get conditioned to see the falsities, and then when we see what's real, it throws us off. So that's a very interesting, authenticity is, I'm gonna say this. I am gonna continue on my own personal journey of authenticity. I'm gonna push for that, and be as genuine, and I would wanna just, uh, share that people can do that too. I mean, to what degree anyone could judge an individual, like, I didn't wake up like this, Is that authentic? I curled my hair. Um, but just, I guess, taking that who you are in your heart and who you are in your mind and letting those come together and just be the best person that you can be in that season of your life and continue to grow and just encourage others to do the same. But it's definitely an interesting journey.
Yeah. I think, I mean, that what you said is really important. I think it's just a journey that you have to sort of embark on. And you touched on something earlier that I wanted to bring up, which was how there's, with women kind of joining the workforce a little bit more, sort of growing more in like roles. I think women have sort of come in and changed a lot of things because I think at least if you see, I think it's very, at least to me, maybe it's because I'm a woman, but it's very clear to me when I see the touch of women, like the female involvement in something, than
Yeah.
when I don't see it, if that makes
Yes.
sense.
Yes. Oh, agreed. Yeah. I think there's something about that. I mean, I love to see when men and women work together and just honor and respect each other's gifts and intellect. And I what I've seen evolve, but I think there's a lot more room to grow, is that we used to, in the past, I'll say older generations, used to say, well, men are this way and women are this way. And men think like this and women think like this. And that's not always the case. I mean, there's very and how women show up in those spaces, but there is a uniqueness to women, maybe because we're women, feel that too. That really brings something to the business environment, not just atmospherically, but like decision making too in leadership.
Yeah, and I think like with women in leadership, I think you also kind of, I feel like for women in leadership and authenticity in a lot of different spaces, even though I guess society has advanced in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
I still feel like there is a double standard. I just think it's a little bit more subtle of that perception that we have of how a woman presents herself versus how a man presents itself. Um,
100.
I don't know if you agree with me, but like I genuinely feel like we're still not at a place where we're just we genuinely are completely equals.
100%. We aren't there yet. I think there's a lot of pushback I've seen again recently against women having a place in decision making. I think that businesses, communities, etc., miss out when women and girls aren't considered for their intellect, talent, and just like the beauty women bring. And I don't even mean physically, but just the way we think, the way we build community. But yes, there's still a pretty decent divide. And I don't think that's just up to men, or I should say, it's not just up to women to change it, it's the men too. Um, you know, I I enjoy being a woman, and I think that men should enjoy being men, and we aren't talking gender bias here, but I'm just saying what I'm saying, and, like, um, in that, just finding how to work with each other, or finding how to honor the space for women, to lead, because, again, you don't make space for us, you're missing out in
Yeah,
your
no.
business.
I think just what happens also is that I notice there's a lot of preconceived notions regarding women.
Mhm.
Just you see a woman show up in an office, and I don't think that necessarily it's going to be immediately like, oh, okay, woman, female, go make the coffee. I don't think it's like that kind of primitive. It's not that direct, but
Right.
I do feel like I started to notice it when my colleagues or the people around me would approach me with preconceived notions and biases, and then that would affect how they worked around me,
Yep.
if that makes sense.
Yep.
And sometimes it's not even because they're trying to directly harm you, or sometimes people are not even aware of the
Yep.
fact that this is affecting the way that they are behaving, but it is affecting it. And
Yeah.
it also takes a while for you yourself to kind of come to that conclusion,
Mhm.
but it's kind of there, and I think it made me realize that it's like, yeah, I mean, I think we're still not at a place where, like, we can genuinely say that women and men have the same kind of work expectations, the same kind of leadership expectations, even the same expectations to performance or any kind of thing.
Sure. Yeah, and there's a lot of, great information out there if you wanna look into the research. It's, far more common for men to ask for raises than it is for women. I mean, uh, generally, women have a softer nature in comparison, generally, not always, right? And, you could perceive it as less aggressive or whatever that might be, but it is more common for women to actually not ask for a raise, but more common for men too. And I think there's a lot of neat programs that I've seen that really encourage women, and teach women how to do that. And the question becomes, it's all our programming. Do we feel we don't deserve it? Or like you mentioned earlier, you come into an environment or a workplace and you notice maybe how, without intention, women are maybe treated a certain way, and then other women pick up on that, and then they don't speak up, or they don't step up, or they don't push harder because it doesn't feel safe for them necessarily to. And maybe it's not worth the fight for them. Then they treat it like a job and they go home. And I think then you just aren't getting the best from your people, when you
Yeah.
don't recognize those things. Yeah.
Yeah, because you also have to make your work environment enjoyable. You wanna make the people that are working there, feel some type of way about it, and
Yeah.
if I think, yeah, sort of treating it like a job, going home, not being worth the fight is probably the most common thing that we see, and I think it's mostly because people wanna protect their peace, and they
Mhm.
also wanna protect their jobs. Unfortunately, I think most people don't feel like the company is gonna have their back if something happens.
This is true. Yep, this is true. Mhm. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
Especially with, situations with women. This didn't happen to me, but I had a friend who told me that she had been sexually harassed at work. She didn't really give me details. She kind of was like, "Oh, like this thing happened to me," and she wasn't sure if she should like say anything, report about it. And I told her like, "Yes, you should." I didn't work with her. She was just kind of telling me the story, and she was kind of really let down when she reported it to HR. Um, HR just wanted it to cover up, and they sent her with a warning that if she was trying to, like, cause this type of, like, stir up again, that she was gonna get fired.
Wow.
Per
Wow.
and then she would just got ostracized by her entire office because everyone just thought that she was, like, the worst person. Because
Mm,
apparently the person that harassed her was, like, this very loved person in the office.
go figure. Sure.
And so everyone loved this guy, everyone thought he was the coolest guy ever, he was super fun, and I think that really speaks volumes because it really shows how at the end of the day, that sets a precedent because the next woman that gets sexually harassed by this man it's going to feel like, what happens if I speak up? They're just going to tell me that I am like a liar, that I'm trying to like cause drama, that I'm this bad woman, blah, blah, blah. And like, yeah, I mean, how do you, are you going to motivate other female employees in your company if that is the environment that you are causing?
Yes, that is I feel so sorry for her, that's terrible, it's terrible, it still happens today, obviously it does, and then you're right, in the future, if anything were to happen with that party that had, created that negative interaction with her, it could happen to another woman, and will she speak up? There's something to if I can say so I'm not that old, but if I could say, like, to because I recognized it in myself when I was younger, when you're coming into your womanhood, you're also you can call it the programming, whatever, you are afraid to speak up. Yeah, there's some people that will, but you don't understand the world yet. And so what I would do is I would encourage young women to make connections with intelligent, wise women who have, if they're in business and they want to remain in business sense, and build a community there so that they feel like someone they have wisdom backing them, but it is also more common when you're young and those things approach you, you just don't know how to handle it. And then you go through a few rounds of that, get a little older and wiser, and then you know what to say when to say it. And generally, you know not to back down. So that's a scary experience. And I would like to see those types of experiences eliminated um, from the work environment or in the world in general.
I know it's so common to get taken advantage of when you're starting at work. I
Mhm.
think my first job, I remember I got like I was I got out of college, I got fired to this company was like I think 2 months after school. So it was super, super early. I hadn't done any internships before, so this was genuinely my first experience in an office.
Yeah.
Um, and they were offering me very little money.
Mhm.
And they told me that they were gonna give me they're like, "We're gonna give you, like, a probational amount for the first 3 months." So they had given me an official salary, but they said, "We're gonna give you less than that for the first 3 months,
Interesting.
um, to check if you are good, and if you don't make it after those first 3 months, you get fired. But if you do a good job, then you can go to the salary that we promised you." And I remember thinking, like, "This kinda weird," right? Because if you offer something from the start, you should be giving me that from the start.
Sure.
But I wasn't sure if that was a thing that people did, in work, if it was a thing that companies did, if it was a, standard. My friends were all my age, we were all super young, we were all like, "I don't know." And I remember thinking, "Should I take it?" And the thing is, I was living abroad at the time, so I was kind of dependent on having to get a job and this job sponsoring my work visa. Because I usually when you graduate, you have, like, a certain period of time to find a job to stay, and if you
Interesting.
don't, you have to leave the country. So I was also worried about, like, the document side of it, so I couldn't really kind of be like, "No," and then keep looking. And I ended up accepting that job. And I mean, I think in hindsight, they were kind of taking advantage of the fact that I had no idea what was going on because I don't think that like amount wasn't even written in the contract. They were just trying to save
Interesting.
money.
Yeah.
It was just they were trying to not spend money on me. Um and I think it took me like a few months, right? Because after that, started sort of working at other jobs, and then I realized, like, yeah, this wasn't like a normal thing. And I think it just really came with just experience.
Yeah, no, you're right. I personally have never heard of something like that, but, to that point, all these little lessons we learn, and we learn how where our value really sits, and we learn how to negotiate those things, and it if I can say the word sucks on this podcast, it sucks that we have to go through that. I think that's a human thing. Whether more women experience that versus men, I'm unsure of. But yeah, man, those lessons of just like not knowing and like you said, you even felt a little bit pressured to take that. But would you do that again?
Probably not. I
Yeah.
I'm like I still had time to get another job. Like I mean I I definitely was on a time crunch, but I could have probably gotten another company to sponsor me and get me a better option. Um,
Sure.
but like you said, I had no context on that. I had a lot of it to like lose, and that company ended up being super sus anyway. So yeah, I had to go through that to learn though. And I feel like you said, having someone around my network that was probably more experienced and knowledgeable than me would have helped me because that person could have told me like, maybe you should do this. I
Yeah.
remember another job when I got hired was that uh, they offered me good money. The job was perfectly well, but they didn't disclose that after taxes and, like a lot of the stuff that they take away from the government, the salary was going to be like a lot less than the initial
Mm,
amount that I had been given. Um, and so my first paycheck, I was like, "Why is it so little?" And then they had to explain all of the deductions. And then I remember I was kind of like, "Oh, I didn't like." I felt kind of scammed. But my colleague, she was a lot older than me, and she was like, like next time that you're looking for a job and you're negotiating salaries, you should ask for like net amount. I don't remember what the terms that she used were because it was like
yeah.
from the country that we were in, but she was like, "But just ask for what the amount is after deductions so
Yeah.
that you can have, like, an actual idea of what money you're gonna see coming in at the end of the month." And I think that was,
That's
like, a
interesting.
great advice,
Yeah.
because like, I do that since. I always wanna make sure, like, kind of how is my salary breakdown in a much more detailed way than just being like, "Yeah."
I love that. It's really wise. I mean, it definitely help you with you set up a budget. That's actually smart. I've never heard of that. I might implement that.
Yeah, because like, I mean, especially if you're kind of, like, starting and your salary is not gonna be the highest, right? Because if you as you get bigger in your career, you can ask for more money and then maybe those deductions won't feel as bad. But when you're just starting and the deductions feel huge, it's important to be able to understand that.
Yeah. And I mean, I can only speak for America. We need all the pennies we can get, right now, or things for a little while have been a bit of rough economically, though great country, so much gratitude for it. But yeah, so I love that. And I think that's all a part of understanding and negotiating all of that.
Yeah,
Mm.
I do. I do. I think I agree. And I think we're moving forward in it. We're definitely progressing. It's just taking I if you compare how the workforce is now versus how it was a few years ago, I still think it's moving more forward than it is backwards. But
Yeah.
you still have to sort of be fighting for more justice, for more things. I think the new generations are doing a really good job at that.
I agree. Yes, I agree
Yeah.
with that. Yep. We gotta just keep it going. I
Yeah.
have to say this to kinda, like, swing it back is that something, I just really appreciate about the, job that I'm with is that, we are people-centric. I mean, even our clients to us, one of our core values is how customer-centric we are. We're all very human, and so we really work towards an atmosphere that we don't even think about inequality, equality. We're an atmosphere where people with, ideas, despite where you come from or gender or whatever the case is, really have the opportunity to be introduced to even the functions of the company. So I would say, as a small agency, the one I'm working at, is that we rep pretty well internally and even to our clients, but there's still opportunity for growth there too.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's a great note to end this podcast on because we are unfortunately running out of time, Jessica. It's
Sure.
been so great having you today. But before we end it, if anything that we spoke about today resonated with our audience, if they would like to work with you, get to know you a little bit better, this is a space to plug anything that you would want to plug.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the best way best way to connect would be LinkedIn. You can find me, Jessica Goodrum. There's probably more than one. But I'm not sure how you would share that, but I am on LinkedIn. So if you want to talk business, you want to talk women in leadership, marketing, creatives, let's have a chat.
Yeah, I will be adding the link to the description, so that's how they're going to find you.
Okay, great.
Yeah. And guys, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Subscribe, comment, listen to us. Thank you so much, Jessica. It was
Yeah,
great
thank
having you.
you. This was awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank
You've been listening to Fully Managed, brought to you by Penji. Check out the show notes to learn more about today's guest, and to learn more about Penji, the human-first creative subscription service, head over to penji.co. And by the way, if you're still listening, it would mean the absolute world to us if you were to share this podcast with a friend, and of course, subscribe.